Hi Booktube and happy Tuesday. I'm here to do a tag video, the used bookstore tag created by Kelly over at Books I'm Not Reading. I have my handy dandy tablet to look over the questions, and as I commented on her video when I was watching it this morning, I would have done this tag whether I was tagged or not because Kelly very kindly tagged me. And because I love these kinds of tags where it's not picking a book to fit a prompt. It's either like the personal questions or book how you read or how you shop, any kind of a bookish habit. Those kind of tags I really like more so than the book to the prompt. But yes, so let's get into it. The first question is, what is your favorite or most often visited used bookstore, and what sets it apart or makes it special? So as I feel like when you think of bookstores here in Portland, like you're immediately going to think of Powell's, the largest bookstore in the world, not just the United States, but the world. And they have a main location in downtown Portland. And they also have two other stores, one that's in the eastern part of Portland, more so in the suburbs, but still in the city of Portland. And then the other one is in Beaverton, which is a suburb of Portland on the west side of the river. So there's three locations for book shopping, but the downtown location is my favorite. That's the biggest one, and there are many floors of books, and it's a whole entire city block. So you have many floors of that on that size and scale. So it's ginormous. So that's for sure what sets it apart and what makes it special. I have done footage, actually, I'm thinking of all three bookstores. I haven't made it the focus of some of my vlogs, but I have, when I have gone out about to these different bookstores, I have included footage of several, or all three of them actually. But yeah, I need to do a feature just to focus on Powell's probably and capture everything. But yeah, I'm very lucky to live here where I have access to this kind of bookstore. I've lived in places in the past where there was no used bookstores, but like a couple of new bookstores, or vice versa, or places where I had to rely solely on thrift stores. So I have lived in places where I didn't have access to this, because along with Powell's, there are several, I like cheaper books, so like library book sales, and there's actually several like year-round, like daily, you can go to library bookstores where it's not just like a random pop-up sale. And there are many, and like when I did a vlog on the Portland book shopping day, like the first time they've done this, and they're on the list of bookstores. It was new and used bookstores on this list, and I think there was like 52 bookstores. So I don't have just Powell's. I have a plethora of bookstores to go to, and so yes, but Powell's is my favorite for sure, just because of the amount of selection that you have. Practically any book that Booktube talks about, for example, I can find it. They also have an online presence as well, where they have a warehouse in addition to these three locations. So if there's a book that's not, for some reason they're not in one of their bookstores, I can get it through the warehouse as well. Okay, so let's see. Number 2 is, does your used bookstore take credit? If so, how much credit do you get for your books? Do they give cash for your books? So yes, Powell's takes credit, and you can sell your books, is it Thursday through Sunday or Friday through Sunday? I can't remember. I typically go on a Friday after work when it's like the least busy. I don't want to do it on a Saturday or Sunday, that's for sure. But because they have like limited hours of when they can look through your books to give you a price for them, it can get very busy. I've gone at like the 9 a.m. time slot, and like the line's out the door, and it's very slow because people will bring like trolleys, dollies, like the dolly, like when you're like moving a refrigerator, for example, and it's stacked full of books. So like that's the amount you often see for each individual person in line. So if you have more than like 3 or 4 people in front of you, you're going to be there for quite a while, because there's only like 3 or 4 buyers there at a time, so only serving 3 or 4 people. But yes, they do take credit. And then what was the other part of this question? Let me see here. My tablet went to sleep, so I had to open it up again. How much do you get for your books? It varies. I've never asked them what their policy is. But I feel like it's a pretty decent amount of credit, because in the past, in one of the cities I lived in, the half-priced books was the local used and new bookstore, and their credit was awful. Like the worst credit I have ever for a bookstore I've ever gone to. It was like pennies per book, practically, is what it felt like, or like 25 cents per book. So that was, this Powell's is much better than that, but I have gone to used bookstores where it's a very clear, where they'll tell me, oh, we'll give you like 30% of what the back cover price is, or 20%, or whatever. I don't think it was 30%. I think it was like 25%, something like that. And then they, sold the books for 50% of the cover price. But for Powell's, I'm sure they have a really good online presence and online website, so I'm sure it states it somewhere. But it might be up to the buyer. I don't know, or there's different level of condition and whatnot, so it might not be as clear as you would think, maybe. And then, did they give you cash for your books? They used to. I moved here in Portland in 2020, so that was during the pandemic, and at that time they had stopped giving cash, or the option of cash. It was just credit. And that's still, to this day, that's the policy. They basically revoked, I guess, the cash policy. Other bookstores I've been to, where if you select the cash option, you got less of it compared to if you went solely with credit. But I don't know what their policy was beforehand. It's just a gift card that you get, that you can spend. And then, let me see. Okay, number 3, how often do you go to your used bookstore? Can you share how much credit you have there? So for my favorite one, the downtown location, I go just a handful of times a year, which I know is heresy, but I feel like, because for anyone here on Booktube, I feel like would go all the time. And, I could. But there's so many used bookstores around that, I have probably 10 that I could go to before I get to the downtown location. At least, so like I can like ping pong, my way there. And I have done that when I went to the book festival day back in May. Was it May or June? I went to many all in one day. There was like a couple miles to this one and that one. But yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I'm rambling here. But I go. It used to be twice a year. My birthday, and then in December, and then I would go in June. I have been going more often. Probably once a quarter, so once every 3 months. I could go more often, but I have so many books on my shelf. And as I mentioned before, I moved here in 2020. When I moved here, I came with like 5 books. So I have filled, like, a lot of these books are books I've already read, because I'm working on the Read What You Own challenge. These bottom 2 shelves here are for books for that challenge that I've already read. But in general, I've filled up 3 bookcases of books in 4 years, and a lot of them I haven't read. So yeah, you can see how when I have gone to Powell's, how I've like loaded up, I've stocked up my shelves. So this past year, because the first time I did the challenge was back last November. So since then, and a little bit before that, on my own guidance, I was like, yeah, this is getting out of hand. So yes, I'm in more a focus of reading the books on my shelf. And then, see, how much credit do I have there? I haven't, last time I sold my books was like a month or 2 ago, and I haven't touched that credit since then. And I think I have around $100 store credit, between 60 and 100, something like that. Let's see, number 4, what, if any, restrictions does your used bookstore have on how you can use your credit? No, there is no restrictions at all. It's like, you get a gift card, a Powell's gift card. Like if I gave you a Christmas present or a birthday present, you can use it for whatever you want at the store, whether it's merchandise like clothing or mugs or candles, because they sell all that kind of stuff there as well. Books, if there is a sale on a book, like sometimes they'll do company-wide like 20% off or 30% off any book in the store, or they'll do like just used books, or sometimes they'll have like a theme, or whether it's cookbooks or romance or whatever. So you can use your gift card in addition to their discounted price when they have those as well, without any restrictions, which is very nice. Let's see. Number 5, how is your used bookstore organized? What do you like or dislike about how it's organized? Okay, I didn't read these questions beforehand, but I didn't read that one. Do I have a, because they have a map actually for the downtown location. I think it's out of reach, or it might not be on my bookcases, on my bookshelves, but it's a gigantic map. It starts out like a little brochure, and it folds out and folds out and folds out until it's like that big, where it tells you, because I think there's, what is it, 4 or 5 floors? I think it's at least 4. But each room has a theme, and so when you go into the main entrance where the cashier, because there's cashier on opposite ends, but the main cashier area is where you have a lot of the merchandise, although it's merchandise sprinkled throughout. But yeah, if I talk about each layout, I'll be here all day. But basically, each room is a different color. And so there's an orange room, a red room, a pink room, a green room, etc., a silver room, and there's a theme for each one. So like the pink room is children's books, YA, books on animals. The red room, which is my favorite, it's nonfiction. So there's, like, think of like a grocery store. there is a whole, like you can, as you walk along the grocery store, you have these aisles. That's what it's like for the history section. We walk along the whole side of the building, and it's all history, and it's honestly, for me, very overwhelming. I don't go to the history section as much because of how overwhelming it is. Like, for example, like World War II, it's several aisles of books. So several aisles of like, what, 10 bookcases per, so it's like you have like 20 bookcases at least on just, that one theme. So it's overwhelming. but yeah, so I do like the layout for Powell's and how that works, because it makes it easy to find things. Also, if you don't know exactly where your book would be placed, if it's like a general type of book, you can look on their website, like, on your phone, or you can also, there's info desks all over the place at Powell's, and there's also a computer you can access as well to find the book, like library catalog. When you go to a library and you want to look up a book and find where it's at, and they have little pens, little pencils with little blank pages where you can write that down once you're looking up your book. The same thing they have at Powell's. So it's very easy to find exactly what you want, because it will tell you the section it's in and the room. So that helps you narrow down exactly where you need to go. Okay, number 6. What is the best find or deal you got at the used bookstore, or at a used bookstore? And I combed my shelves trying to figure that out, and I couldn't pin anything down. I don't get collectible items, so maybe that would be considered, a deal. But when I was looking around, I just went with, let me see this. I want to make sure these books I've selected wasn't for a different question. Okay, yeah, never mind. I'm looking at, the books I selected were for a different question. But yeah, I couldn't find anything. I was just looking around, and like, the thing is, as I mentioned before, Powell's offers anything practically available to me. So, and at a fairly decent price. So I feel like almost any like little niche book would fit this. And so, yeah. I didn't have an answer, because I feel like I'm that spoiled, which is ridiculous to say. Because I know, I said it in the past, I've lived in places where I had 0 used or new bookstores, or one or the other. So, yeah, I feel it's ridiculous to come up with that answer, but I literally couldn't think of anything, because I don't get those special books. But yeah, as far as like deals, I will say the library bookstores, not the sales, but the book sales get on my nerves, because you're fighting lots of crowds and people like jostling around, and I feel like there's so much pressure to keep moving along, and but also it's annoying because the person beside you is like not moving, or you know what I mean. So it's like, or you have those people sitting on the floor with their scanner phones on those book buying, I don't know what they're doing, but they're annoying. So I don't go to those hardly ever. But I'm talking about the bookstores that are like brick and mortar. Those I'll often get books for like $1, and they can be, even at Powell's, they'll be at least $10. I like those kind of deals, but that's not anything spectacular that I could really call out. Okay, so let me see here. Number 7. My goodness, that was a very long-winded answer to a very simple question of the answer was like, no, I can't think of anything. Let's see, number 7. Is there something you saw at your used bookstore and now you regret not purchasing? No. Because I like at Powell's, there is a floor that I have never gone to. And that is where you have the special edition, very expensive books. The antique books. I don't go up there. So anything else is within my budget because I am almost always using store credit or cash, but most books that I purchase there are between $8 and $10. So if I see something that I am at all interested in, I will thumb through it and see, do I actually want it? And I don't put a book back on the shelf if I'm still interested in it. Basically I'm saying the price of the books don't prohibit me from purchasing it. Let's see, number 8. Is there a book you are always on the hunt for at your used bookstore? Not a specific book, but I thought I would talk about some authors or themes that I like to go to browse at any used bookstore. So I thought I had to mention Gladys Taper. I've mentioned her several times, and I feel like she's getting more known on Booktube because I've seen several Booktubers talk about her. But she's been on my radar for several years, and because her books are mostly out of print. And so when I see any of her books, I always snatch them up. And the same thing goes for Hal Borland, which is, I feel like a contemporary of Gladys Taper, because she herself actually mentioned him in one of her books and how she admires Hal Borland's writing. So if you like Gladys Taper, give Hal Borland a try, because he also does a similar thing of going through a season or through a year, or just like contemplating where he lives, or he does like a variety of books like on his same as Gladys Taper, with like talking specific books about his animals and things like that. So yeah, I look for some specific authors, and then I always like going to the classics. I don't get the antique books, but I do like getting these like special annotated editions, or like with pretty covers or something like that for classics. I do like picking those up when I see them. So this is the Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, the annotated edition. Who published this? Belknap and Harvard. Yes, and so I like books like this, and I will browse the shelves for those. I almost never go for places I don't think it's part of the questions at all, and in the coming ones. But I never really go to mystery or romance in these. I read them, but I don't buy them. Especially at Powell's, where the prices are a bit more. I will purchase them if they're like at the library bookstore, where it's like $1 or 50 cents, something like that. But for Powell's, where it's like $8 and up, most of the prices are like that. I never buy them because I can readily get them through my library, and so and those books also I don't keep on my shelves once I read them most of the time. Even though I love, especially mystery and thriller, that I'll just eat them up like they're like catnip for me. But yeah, I don't purchase them. Let me see here. Number 9, if you could run your used bookstore for a day, what changes would you make? And as I mentioned, like the prices pretty much start out at $8 and up most of the time. There's even a spinner rack in the science fiction and fantasy area, where you have the old mass markets are there. But the prices, again, even for the old mass markets from like the 70s or 80s, or maybe even earlier, they're at around, I think, $4 each at least. So like the Louis L'Amour and all that kind of thing is $4 each. I would like there to be a section, like a bargain section, or just in general for the prices just to be a little bit lower. And I know that goes for new books as well, because I haven't even touched on the new books because I never buy them. But and this again is used bookstore tag, but even new books, the prices should be slashed in half. But for used books, I feel like sometimes $10, $12 for a book, is it really necessary for an older book? I feel like or at least like a bargain section would be nice. But when I think of bargain section, I don't want to exactly say that, because I've been to bookstores where they have that, and it's like just throwaway books. For example, books that are really worn or, you know, torn, or just books that are like no interest. I feel like they sit there and linger there, and there's outside carts, for example, until the weather destroys them, and then they just go into the trash can. So I'm hesitant to say to create a bargain room in the Powell's. Yeah, I'll just say price is being a little bit less. That's what I'm gonna go with. But yeah, the layout and everything, I really like them. It's easy to find and things like that. Number 10, if you could go used book shopping with any booktuber in any city, who would you go with and where? So I have to say the Bridal Bookshop in Boston with Steve Donahue. I'm always jealous of all the books he's able to get on the cheap. Like, for example, he's mentioned, you know, he always mentions, you know, many books that are hard to find or out of print, like these older books, older titles. And I can find them for the most part, but they're much more expensive, because he talk about bargain books. He gets like it's $1, $3, and $5 for the outside book carts, and then they have like a brick and mortar store as well right beside this parking lot. And not parking lot, I mean it's like an empty outside area. And so he can get a book for $5 or $3, and I can find it for like 30 or something. So it's much more expensive. So I have to say, going to Boston, like just the city in of itself, I would love to go. I was supposed to go back in October, but things happened where I couldn't manage to go. I had to cancel all my plans. But the other bookstore, way back, speaking of Steve Donahue, actually, before I discovered his channel, there was the Reading Roads. There was a couple, both of them were booktubers, and they met, I think, through Booktube. And so they got married, and they moved to Massachusetts, and they would do vlogs going to Niantic, Connecticut, to the Book Barn. And I've seen other booktubers go there. And that's a store I really want to go to as well. There's multiple locations where the books are very affordable. And so, like as I mentioned, how I really like the library bookstores, because I like finding books for cheaper prices than, you know, so like books $5 and under that are, you know, really, you know, good condition and good books. Like that just sounds wonderful to me. So, and having so much choice is just sounds really nice. And then I'm trying to think, is there any other? I know there's more. I'm like blanking, of course, but those two are the first two that come to mind. Let's see. And then number 11 is tags on Booktubers. So I am going to go with people who recently commented on my videos that have their own channels. So I'm going to go with the Bookzealots. And let me see here. I should have wrote these down. Believe in Your Shelf. And then the other one is Sarah at the Bookish Knitter. So I tag you three, and I will leave a link in the description below to Kelly's channel and then the 3 people I have tagged. Yeah, I had so much fun doing this tag. I feel like I've been very rambly, but I have lots of thoughts and opinions and lots of experience shopping at used bookstores. But anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Booktube.